Hello GIS friends, my name is Jessie Van Horn and I'm going to be walking you through these training videos for the Agricultural Conservation Planning Framework, better known as the ACPF. The ACPF was developed at the National Lab for Ag and Environment in Ames, Iowa by a group of geographers and soil scientists that work for the Agricultural Research Service with the USDA. I also want to mention real quick the ACPF forum. A lot of people post their questions to here so the ACPF community can see it. And this is really helpful because a lot of people encounter the same errors or have the same questions. So a lot of times your question has already been asked and answered there. So you can just go to this link shown here. And to participate, you're going to first need to send an email to acpf-group+subscribe@umn.edu. Alrighty, so let's start our first video. Within this first video, we're going to go over some necessary setup you need to do before using the ACPF. This involves downloading the ACPF toolbox and the user manual, also downloading the TAUDM software that we use in a few of our tools, loading the ACPF toolbox into Arc Catalog, setting up our ACPF folder directories, and then making some adjustments to our workspace and geoprocessing settings within Arc Catalog and ArcMap. So let's go ahead and get started. So first off, we need to get our ACPF toolbox and the user manual bundle. We will also grab some data here. So we'll start by going to our website. That is acpf4watersheds.org. And that would be acpf4watersheds.org. From here, you click on Learn More under the Get ACPF circle. And once that goes, you see we have two options for toolboxes that you can download. One is the ArcGIS desktop for versions 10.3 to 10.6. The other is for ArcGIS Pro users, and this has been tested for the latest version of Pro, and that's 2.2. So I'll hit the one for the desktop version, and we're going to be taken to the University of Wisconsin's Box account where we can download the zipped file that's going to be containing the toolbox, the user manual, and other information we'll go over later. Also, on that Get ACPF page, there's a link that will take you to watershed databases. So if we click here, you'll be taken to our ACPF land use viewer. All of the watersheds shown here in color, and then when you zoom in, the ones that have names and IDs denoting them are the ones that are available for download. You can see here under the legend that tells you that. You can search for HUC12s either by their HUC12 ID or their name. So for example, if I typed in deer and hit search, all the watersheds with the word deer in their name are going to pop up telling me their HUC ID number and the state that they're located in. So I can then go to my view and downloading instructions. Right now we're just navigating so you can see I can easily pan across the screen. If I hit View PDF and then click on a watershed, a new screen will pop up giving me some basic land use information on that watershed as well as a PDF that could be printed out. If I go back to the viewer and hit Download Geodatabase, now when I select on the watershed you can see it's been highlighted and then it's now ready to be downloaded. So if I hit Download, I'm going to have a zipped folder with my ACPF geodatabase located inside of it that I'll have to unzip and save to the proper location. Alright, so let's move on to the TAUDM software. In order to run the ACPF, TAUDM software must be installed on your computer. TAUDM is a software developed by David Tarbotten at Utah State University. And it can be accessed through the following website here at hydrology.usu.edu/TAUDM and so on. It'll take you to the home page and then you'll need to click on the Downloads tab to get there. And this will take you to this page. First off, you may need to enter some organization information before you can access these downloads, but don't worry, that's simply just for their records and to email you about updates if that happens. But once you're here, you're going to want to make sure that you download the TAUDEM most recent version complete Windows installer. The ACPF uses the software for a number of reasons, including its ability to process on multiple computer cores at once, as well as some enhanced terrain processing abilities that it offers. So I've just opened a Windows Explorer window. I'm going to go to where I saved the ACPF folder after I unzipped it to. For me, that is my C drive, and I have it sitting in this ACPF_v3 folder. So we go into there. Our first file is a docs folder. Within that is the user's manual. I highly recommend everybody reading through the user's manual. There is important information here as based on the theories behind the ACPF, as well as how each tool runs and what inputs are needed for it and what outputs you will get, and explanations of all the attribution for each output. I would recommend having this user manual open and using it as a reference when you're running through the ACPF the first and even second time, so you can just become familiar with the tools and why they work the way they do. Along with that is also a Word doc that goes over the changes to the ACPF in version 3. You can feel free to review that on your own. If we go back to the parent folder, the next item is layer files. These layer files essentially hold symbology. We'll go over these later in some of the tool videos, but what these can do is underneath the properties, you'll go to symbology and import these files to apply a standard symbology, at least standard for the team here in Ames, to your layer. And you can see some of them are dependent on joining other tables to these feature classes. We have a metadata folder which contains the metadata for all the base data you're going to get when you download an ACPF database. So for example, when you open one of these, this one was for the watershed boundary feature class. And it's going to give you a summary of what the feature class is, maybe how it was generated in some cases, what credits are due, and just the general how they should be used, either with the ACPF or just for general GIS work. And then our last folder is the scripts folder. These are all the Python scripts that are essentially the tools that you're going to be running. And if you open one of these, there's the Python code that was written to make the tools run. There's also the utilities tools in here. You're probably not going to ever need to really go to these unless you know Python yourself and would like to make edits, but be advised any changes you make to these will change how the tool works. And unless you make a copy, the original file will be lost. So it's better to just not touch these unless you're very familiar with Python coding. There is also a text document that has instructions on how to install the ACPF toolbox. I am going to go over this, but it's right here for your reference if you ever need a refresher. There's also the ACPF CDL lookup table, and that stands for the crop data layer lookup table. This is used to format the NAS data that we use with the ACPF. And then finally, the actual toolbox, which you'll be installing into your ArcGIS desktop or Pro interface. We also want to make sure that we store our ACPF data on a local drive. Once again, not the desktop, not a network drive. So I've created an additional folder called ACPF_data. If we go into that, we can see the file geodatabase that I chose to download. And this is the watershed that I'm going to use for a majority of these videos. So if you want to follow along, feel free to download this watershed here, and we'll be doing a lot of the same processes. Alright, so let's create our file directory for the ACPF data and make some edits in our Arc catalog settings. So first of all, we'll head up to this geoprocessing tab and let's go to our environments. Now we're going to go to the workspace tab, and we want to make sure that we like where our current workspace and our scratch workspace are set. So mine is set to C drive, users, my user profile, documents, ArcGIS, and default geodatabase. There's a good chance that yours is set to this similar location as well, obviously your personal user profile name. ArcGIS tends to make this the default. However, if it's not, you would just simply click on this folder and navigate to this location. These workspaces can be set to folders or a different geodatabase if you wish. You just always want to make sure that it's set to a local drive, in my case, my C drive. You do not want this to be working off of a network drive. So I'm happy with the settings. I'm going to hit OK. We're going to go back to this geoprocessing tab, and this time go into geoprocessing options. Under General, we want to make sure that Overwrite the outputs of geoprocessing operations is checked. This means if we ever want to rerun a tool but keep the same name, it's just going to overwrite that previous output with no problem at all. We're also going to want to make sure that background processing is enabled, so check both of these settings. Enabling background processing just allows the tool to run in the background so you can continue to work in your map document while the tool is running, and it can also speed up the actual processing time. Everything else looks good to me, so I'm going to hit OK. And now we can add our ACPF toolbox. So to add our ACPF toolbox, we first need to open the ArcGIS toolbox window. And we can access that right here. You can see mine's automatically been docked. Yours may have popped out like a separate window. If you grab it and highlight this little arrow, boom, now it's attached. So the way we add our toolbox is by right-clicking in this white space and hit Add Toolbox. We'll navigate to where we saved our toolbox. So in my case, I was on the C drive under ACPF, under this parent directory folder, and then we grab our toolbox and hit Open. If you want to make this convenient and have this toolbox always pop up every time you open Arc Catalog or ArcMap, all you have to do is right-click, go to Save Settings, and to Default. Now, even when you close Arc Catalog or ArcMap and then reopen them, this toolbox is always going to be here. There's another important window within Arc Catalog and ArcMap that I'd like to point out, and that's your results window. So you can see I'm running a tool right now from the ACPF, and if we go to Geoprocessing down to Results, we get this window. Similarly to the toolbox, yours may be a floating window. I toggle mine to the side. Now you can see we're in a current session. If I expand this, I can see my tool that just succeeded in running here. And I can expand this again and go to Messages. And this shows me everything that the tool is doing while it's running. Within the Python scripts that were written, there are messages that are put out once a certain point of that tool has been reached. And this can be very helpful if an error is thrown or maybe a tool is taking a while to run. You can come to these messages and see what happened or where it is currently to make sure that everything is running properly. You can also check out your inputs, make sure that they actually were the correct inputs that's going on, and see some basic environment settings here. This is just a very valuable window to have and to look at occasionally, especially when a tool is running or if an error is thrown, like I was saying. Not all ArcGIS tools are going to have such in-depth messages, but all of the ACPF tools do. Lastly, I'm just going to show you real quick how to make a folder connection. You can either do it by clicking on this icon, which opens up this window, or you can right-click on Folder Connections and do Connect to Folder. You'll navigate to where you're keeping your data currently, so I have mine on my C drive, ACPF data, and I can hit OK here. I want to point out that a file geodatabase cannot be a a direct folder connection, you can see I can't hit OK. So that's why you need to have this overarching parent folder that it sits in. So you can hit OK. And now we can see that directly the C ACPF underscore data is a folder connection. If I open this up, here's my file geodatabase with all this data that I've already processed in the past. So we'll take a closer look at what you get when you download a fresh geodatabase in the next video. Here's a brief recap on your Windows Explorer and Arc Catalog settings. Next up, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that file geodatabase that we downloaded to take a look at the base data.